Hi, this is Gary Collins of the Primal Show, and I'm here with Heath Squier, CEO of Julian Bakery, and Chris Clark, who is an author, chef, and nutritional expert. Thanks for being here today, Chris. Why don't you, if you could, explain some of the things that you do, because there's a lot there. That's a lot to say. Chef, author, nutritional expert, consultant.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, sure. My background is originally in business. I switched out of business and with a lifelong interest in healthy food and nutrition. So then I became a chef for many years, and I'm still a chef, but I'm more now focused on the education side of nutrition. So earlier this year, in February, I published my book, which is called Nutritional Grail. And since then, I've been doing a lot of writing and a lot of promotion of the book. So now I'm writing for the Lauren Cordain's team at the PaleoDiet.com, also for the Huffington Post. And as I'm in Dubai, I'm also writing for the Middle East edition of Men's Health. So I'm doing a lot of promotion on writing about healthy food. At the same time, I'm working hands-on on some concepts. So originally I came to Dubai about a year and a half ago to set up a restaurant. As a consultant, I was the one to design the menu, the recipes, to train the staff and to get them going. And I'll be going to Beirut in December to do a similar kind of concept like that, helping to set up a restaurant. So,
Awesome.
so yeah, I'm teaching cooking classes, writing about healthy food and nutrition, maintaining my blog, which is on the education side of cooking, with a lot of recipes with step-by-step photos, and different projects that are all around the theme of healthy food.
So are most of your recipes paleo-based? Obviously, you write for the paleo diet and so forth. Are you is paleo your primary slant, or is it just healthy food in general, kind of like a, real food kind of concept?
Yeah, I would say it's a bit of both. I mean, for me, paleo is the starting point. That's the template. So that's the baseline, and from there, I mean, for certain people, I think it can be appropriate to kind of customize it a little bit, whether that means adding in some fermented dairy or if that means adding in some fermented grains. But paleo is definitely the starting point. So meat, fish, vegetables, fruit, and nuts and seeds. That's the focus. If you look at my blog, I have about 170 recipes, and I would say like 90% of them are fitting with the definition of paleo.
So when you, I'm sure you separate, obviously there's no grains in paleo or legumes, beans, absolutely like whatsoever. So, Lauren Cordain's like really adamant about that. But do you say like, hey, this is over here and kind of like a real food, kind of healthy kind of eating in terms of consuming sprouted grains and maybe legumes and things like that versus, paleo is paleo. You can't really change paleo because there's no sort of grains or anything like that or legumes in it. I mean, do you separate that for your, the people on your site and so forth so that there's no confusion? Because what Gary and I have found is that there's a ton of confusion. There's a ton of bloggers and people out there today that are really kind of blending the two. They're trying to add things in the paleo that just simply don't belong. And that's because paleo is an anti-inflammatory diet where you're consuming foods that don't inflame the gut. So grains, legumes, things like that are inflammatory. They're inflaming joints. They're not promoting optimal health. Can you speak a little bit about maybe how you separate that when you do recommend things outside of paleo?
Yeah. Well, the fact is that I don't really use the word paleo so much at all. So
okay.
in my book,
Okay.
but at the same time, I'm writing for the paleo diet and I'm totally supportive of the paleo concept and the paleo movement. But when it comes to my website, I think you don't see the word paleo except for that I write for the PaleoDiet.com,
Right.
and then in my book, the word paleo, it doesn't appear except for in the foreword. The doctor who wrote the foreword, he he wrote something about the Paleolithic era, but that's one mention in a 294-page book. So I'm not like kind of like putting paleo label on my food, but at the same time I'm saying I'm telling people like if you want a starting point, it's paleo or it's Weston A. Price, or which are pretty. There's a huge amount of overlap between the two. So
yeah, the biggest difference. I was a Weston A. Price. I should say I am a supporter, but far as there's two different splits in that too. There's the Price Pottinger side, and then there's the WAPF organization. Even that has a split far as philosophies of what he said. But I understand what you're saying too. I believe in the Weston A. Price model and paleo, but I'm a primal guy, and that's kind of a blend. Primal blends things a little bit. And I think what you explained far as the fermented grains and far as the fermented dairy, that is kind of a primal thought process too. I've always said if you can tolerate them, obviously organic, raw dairy, fermented grains even, I don't recommend that, but I say if you can tolerate it, I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
as long as you understand. Yeah, it gets tricky. I mean, you start getting in there and...
I think, there's like different tiers of audience that you're talking to. So it can be the general like public who is just like at such a state of health that like even the slightest step in the direction of any of those three, Primal, Paleo, or Weston A. Price, that's a great start, But then after you do it for a while, and then you fine tune it, and then you find out what works best for you. And I think that's kind of like that gets into the kind of the bio individuality of all of this, and finding out that there's never going to be a one size fits all diet, which is
we're all different. Everyone's different. Now, I've been one of the few proponents who talks about cultural and ethnic backgrounds and how it could be different. But for Americans, it's really tough because we're such a melting pot that it's very difficult now to even hone in on what you can tolerate because you have to experiment so widely with it. But to get to that point, I always tell people that it's best to start with an elimination diet, which is the paleo diet, and do it for a long time. Just don't do it for 30 days and then start implementing foods right back in, which some people preach, which I consider completely idiotic. Because 30 days just gives you your basis.
Right.
After that, I tell people 12 to 18 months really before things settle in and your body starts to really adapt, starts to heal itself, and you kind of get in stride, and then you can slowly start bringing things back in. I'm more of a slow mover kind of guy, I guess is a way to put it, just because I think it takes so long for our body to adapt back and heal, even though it's very resilient, the human body, but it doesn't happen overnight. You spend decades screwing it up. You can't have it snap back in 30 days. Do you talk about that? Do you talk about any of that in your book at all, or?
About the slow movement?
Yeah.
Yeah, I touch on it. I mean, in the book, I kind of separate it into fat, protein, carbohydrates, getting into the details on all of that, and then I talk a lot about kind of the history of what happened, of how things got totally so messed up in the last century, which I refer to as the dark ages of nutrition. And and so I kind of tell the story that, a lot of people know about the Ansel Keys story and what happened with the whole demonization of saturated fat and cholesterol, and then putting the support behind the polyunsaturated fat. So get into the history of that a bit, and then then at the end it's more about implementation. So I have 100 recipes in the book, and then a chapter about kind of like getting your kitchen set up, because I'm trying to show the hands-on cooking side, and how do you actually do this, how do you actually put it into motion. But I mean, it's like definitely I encourage the not to do like a total radical overnight transformation, especially if you're coming from the side of maybe like vegetarian, like for example like me, and I think there's a lot of people in the whole like primal paleo ancestral health movement who who were kind of seduced into thinking that vegetarian was the way to go. That's my story. So, I maybe 9 years ago, I was on a vegetarian diet, started to feel my health. At first, it was much better than the kind of standard diet that we have in the U.S. But then I kind of felt my health declining a little bit, and then I started to question, like, is this really the way, So I think especially if you're coming from that kind of like extreme side, definitely it's better to kind of slowly transition.
If somebody was, if you were trying to help people, lose weight, obviously, a lot of people are interested in losing weight, and not only losing weight, but, achieving their optimal health. Gary and I are big fans of following kind of like a low sugar, kind of a right carb or a low carb, where you're getting your carbs from vegetables instead of, starches and so forth, and following a low starch kind of a template of eating in order to lose weight quickly. Do you have any sort of advice in terms of, if somebody was looking to lose some weight, what, maybe you've done in your own life or people that you've helped in terms of, recipes and things like that?
Absolutely. It's definitely, I think it's all related to the high carb versus low carb, because that was my problem. Because what I originally started with like 13 years ago was macrobiotics. So the macrobiotic diet is a high grain diet, also high legume diet, vegetables also, but at the end of the day, it's a very high carb diet. And what I found with that diet is that I was never satisfied. I was always craving something to eat between meals and also before bed, and sweets, craving sweets. So I think that for many people, like, it's everybody knows, like, we need to stop eating sugar, we need to cut down on sugar, but it's one thing to tell people stop eating sugar, but what's happening if you're craving sugar all day and then you're just like, I can't do it. So then you have to step back and say, what's driving that craving? Because obviously it's not normal to be craving sugar all day. Your meals should satisfy you. So my advice to people who understand that, yes, we need to reduce the sugar intake, is to understand where your craving for sugar is coming from. And I think in many cases it's coming from overconsumption of carbs in the diet, like you said, of not relying on vegetables to get the carbs, but instead having grains or grains, and maybe too many starchy veg. But that would be the idea, to kind of to get over the fat phobia, to
Right.
add in some of those healthy saturated and monounsaturated fats, to reduce the polyunsaturated fats, and then to kind of like, as your fat goes up, your protein kind of stays moderate, and then your carb consumption comes down. So it's getting over these like culturally ingrained hurdles that we've been set up to lose, with the whole low fat movement,
Well, you're in the Middle East. What right now, and you've been there for a while. What kind of difference have you seen far as diet there and what you're teaching over there? Because obviously you're consulting with restaurants and helping opening restaurants, and you're doing it, I would imagine, in a healthy way, obviously, and using some of your paleo teachings. How is it different from the standard American diet, would you say?
Well, the thing is, it's not so different because
Really?
what the big problems here are obesity and diabetes, and same problem
Yeah.
that you have in
Different place.
and huge huge amount of sugar in the diet. Same problem as you have in the U.S. When I was doing the research for my book, I found 97 pounds of sugar per person per year in the U.S. And that's up from 43 pounds per person at 1900 and 7 pounds per person at 1800. So it's just an exponential curve up.
Yeah.
And what's happened here in Dubai and in the region in general is that as it's expanded so rapidly, it's just been so many of the businesses here, the restaurants here, they're just concepts which have been imported from the U.S. and from Europe. So many. You drive around here and you see like TGI Fridays, you see Chili's, you see all of these big American chains, and it's just like, it's no surprise that the health problems that are experienced here are the same ones that are experienced there. But to their credit, the government they're very much aware of this problem. They're promoting the idea of healthy eating. I can show you this. 1 second. This is the magazine called 999. This is published by the Dubai Ministry of Interior, and on the front cover there, I think you can see it says,
Wow.
"Going Paleo, how is it changing lifestyle?" So they interviewed me first. And
Imagine that
so
on an American government publication from HHS or CDC or something like that. USDA, that would never happen, I don't think.
Yeah, I read something recently that in Dubai they were actually giving out gold for people that lose weight. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, that's for the local population, for the kids. It's something like you lose a kilo of body weight, and then you're going to get a certain amount of gold. So, I mean, what a great incentive to.
We need that here in the U.S.
Yeah, God, could you imagine that?
For a year, and then be like, okay, I'm going to lose 20 kilos.
See, here everyone would figure out a way to scam the system instead, and
they would lose the weight and then gain it back.
Yeah, gain it all. That's the first thought that hit me. I went, well, I would just go gain a bunch of weight, and then I'd just go lose it, get the gold, and then gain it all back. I mean,
oh man.
Yeah. Have they had that problem? Has there been an issue with that, as far as people trying to game the system a little bit, or has everyone stuck to it and changed their lifestyle?
No, I mean, I don't really know the outcome of that. It's definitely not a thing that like expats are allowed to participate. It's for the local population. So it's for the local kids who are Emirati kids. They can, and Emirati families, they can participate in that. So no, it's I don't know. I mean, but what I do see is that there's a strong interest and desire to kind of promote organic, to promote to be aware of this problem, that there is diabetes and obesity at a crisis level, and to kind of like not have to kind of learn, like see what's happened in the West and be like, okay, we don't have to go through the whole thing. We can learn from the mistakes of others. You know, we don't have to we don't have to have the same fate. So I think they're pretty proactive in that sense, but on the other hand, yeah, I mean, when you compare like the restaurant offerings and the organic food offerings, there's still a lot to be done. It's not
what is the obesity rate there? What is the rate? Is it similar to the U.S. or less?
Yeah, it's at least the same or more. At least
really?
The same and in the region, it gets even higher. I mean, in Kuwait, I think it was something like 80% of women are obese or overweight. In the U.S., we have 2/3 which are overweight or obese, you know, and 1/3 of children which are overweight or obese. And here it's similar or maybe a little bit more, but
yeah, we've been trying to work. My company makes a lot of paleo diet foods, that are recommended by Dr. Lauren Cordain. We've been trying to work with some of the importers in Dubai to bring them in, because there's a huge demand right now for low carb, healthy products like we make. So we're really excited to get over in the stores. Do they have a Whole Foods in Dubai, or?
No. I think Whole Foods outside of the U.S. is only in the UK, in London. But
okay.
could be mistaken. But no, there's no Whole Foods. There's one store which is called Organic Food and Cafe, and that's like a organic food store. And there's a couple more smaller ones, but it's still there. I mean, Dubai is just a place of exponential growth. So if you look at what's happened in 5 years, you can't compare it. Now the same thing. Now you have Dubai Mall, which is one of the biggest malls in the world, and right next to that, they're building a huge indoor-outdoor shopping center. And then, like maybe just 2 miles away, they're building the Mall of the World, which is going to be the biggest mall of the world. They already have one of the biggest. And so, just like, so the point is with organic food and healthy food, like, now's the time to get in, but it's just going to keep going. So yeah, I mean, we can talk. I can put you in contact with some people maybe to help you get stuff.
I bet there's Walmart there, right? I bet there's a Walmart there, though.
Walmart.
Some hip shop.
That's the low end, Gary. Come on. Anything to buy.
Oh, I thought it would be the higher echelon Walmart, the biggest one in the world.
Have you, Chris, have you in any of your recipes, obviously you're talking about the overconsumption of sugar and so forth, and one of the nice things that at least, we enjoy, like we make paleo chocolate using organic cacao with organic stevia, enzymatically broken down, and it almost tastes like honey, and it's we sell like a liquid stevia. Have you played around with stevia or any of the other like real natural sweeteners that, don't destroy blood sugar?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I love stevia. I love it, but not on its own. Unless I'm missing something, like if you use it only without any other, like something with fructose, then the taste is not there. That's my experience. So normally I use it as like a sweetness booster, to you put like a tiny bit of whatever, one of those fructose-based sweeteners, whether it's maple syrup or coconut sugar or normal sugar or whatever, or dates, and then you add a few drops of the stevia liquid, and then you kind of trick the taste into thinking like, okay, well, getting the amount of sugar that I want, but it's actually much less.
Yeah, if you look into Now Foods, they make an organic stevia, and they're the only one that doesn't have that odd tasting stevia, and it's because of the way they process it. I actually sent Dr. Lauren Cordain a bunch of information on the way they process, because you actually get the full benefit of the stevia, which helps in all sorts of different arenas. But then another thing you can do too is mix organic stevia with just a very small amount of erythritol, which is derived from the fermenting of vegetables and fruits. And if you add a small amount, like 7 grams or less, you don't have any sort of stomach issues, and you get an amazing replacement for sugar. And it's incredible to be able to make recipes with it, and it's a great way for people not to destroy their blood sugar. So Gary and I like to deal in a lot of recipes and products that promote optimal health by maintaining your blood sugar throughout the day, so your energy level stays consistent, so that you never crash. And that's just one thing we love to implement into our recipes.
Yeah, that's interesting. You found the same thing. I found that with stevia as well by accident. Is blending it with just a little of a natural sugar, and it completely changes the taste. Stevia by itself it has a funky aftertaste, but you cut it with something else, a natural sugar, and it completely changes the taste of it. It is pretty incredible how that works. And that was a little cooking secret hack you could give right now. That was great you mentioned that, because I think a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, but everyone's going to know it soon, because Coca-Cola, they figured it out too. Did you see what they're doing with Coca-Cola Life?
No.
They have a new product, which actually it debuted in South America, I think, last summer. But now I think it's in the U.S. now. It's called Coca-Cola Life with the green can, and it's like half their normal sugar amount, and then they use stevia for the remaining sweetness. So they figured it out too. No surprise.
The stores I shop at don't sell Coca-Cola, so I wouldn't even know. I'm so out of that world now that I would have no clue. That's interesting though.
Yeah.
They always do introduce those products to overseas first, and test them out, and then we'll get them over here.
In Argentina, I think, because that's kind of like the home of stevia, where it originates from.
Yeah.
And so they test marketed it there, and I think now it's going global. So I didn't taste it, but I just thought, okay, they figured it out too. A little bit sugar, and then, or in their case, high fructose corn syrup, and then the rest with stevia.
Yeah, they could do more stevia, but I'm sure it was the bottom line. They could have done a little bit of high fructose corn syrup and mostly stevia, but that would screw up the profit margins.
Cheaper, especially with all those subsidies on corn.
Well, and you couldn't get people addicted either.
Yeah, exactly. You spoke a little bit about writing for which magazine? Men's Fitness or
Men's Health? Yeah, Men's Health.
Men's Health. Okay. And what are some of the topics that you've discussed in that magazine? And how is the fitness over there? Is there a lot of gyms in Dubai? I mean, how is the fitness level? And are there a lot of people preaching kind of paleo and exercise together?
Yeah, well, for Men's Health, I'm just starting with them. So my first article will be published in the November issue. It's just a kind of a standard, like what are the top 10 foods that every man should have in his kitchen, and then I try to focus on some of the foods which are native to this area. So I put some things like sumac. You know what sumac is? It's an amazing berry, small berry, which is dried out into a little powder, and then it has like a tangy lemon kind of taste. It's full of antioxidants. You can put it on meat or mix it into the salad. Sumac, that's a great one. So I did 10 foods, and the next article which I'll write is going to be on the topic of the gut microbiome, which I think is a fascinating topic, which is like linked to so many things. In terms of fitness, I teach monthly cooking classes at a cooking school here, and a couple of months ago, the class was full. It was like really over, too many people coming. But then I realized there was a guy who's a CrossFit instructor, and he brought like 8 of his students there because he was like, he was he wanted them to kind of get on the nutrition side and learn about paleo and healthy cooking. So from them, talking with them, I realized, which I didn't know before that, is that CrossFit is really booming here in Dubai. There's like maybe 13 or so gyms, is what they told me, which are focused on CrossFit. So CrossFit and paleo, of course, go, they're kind of related with each other. So I would say that on the gym side, people are like, because it's kind of an outdoor place with a hot climate, so people are naturally inclined to kind of try to look after their health and their bodies, which with normal mentality is like, okay, that means I have to work out. It's secondly the food, I'll eat whatever, but first that means I have to work out hard. So yeah, I would say on the fitness side, there's a lot of gyms and especially with CrossFit, so that's encouraging. And now it's just a matter of kind of integrating the healthy food into that.
Yeah, that's awesome. When I first joined CrossFit, that was what they taught me is, how to eat paleo and so forth. And of course I already knew, but I mean, it was great to see them actually teach that to everybody in the class. So I think that would be, a great market for you to, focus on, obviously, especially since they're sending you so many people. But yeah, that's the other thing too, if people could only realize that working out is maybe 20% of the equation and diet's 80%. It's so ridiculous. And my trainers used to beat that into my head. And in my 20s, I didn't really get it. And in my 30s, I understood, because that's when I radically changed my own diet. And then I saw all the results come into place. And if people only understood that at one point, it's like, working out is so little. In fact, when you change your diet, you get to work out so much less. And you get so many more results. And it's sad that not a lot of bloggers and people teach that. So hopefully people listen up, because change your diet.
Yeah. But the problem is too the opposites. They think, oh well, I changed my diet, I don't need to exercise anymore. And that's one of the issues I have with WAPF is I've talked to them about the conferences, and they have never once talked about exercise. An entire health conference, and they don't have one speaker who talks about exercise, and I'm all, you guys are missing the point, and that's the sad part, is it makes it harder, I think, for the people we're trying to teach, because it becomes confusing, because they start going to these places and they start getting the information, but it's not in one package. And that's what we're trying to teach too, is that they go together. You can't just skip one. You can't exercise more and eat less healthy, and you can't eat healthy and exercise much less. It's got to be somewhat of a balance. You can get away with exercising less, but also the human body was geared to move, and we were hunter-gatherers, we were nomadic, for the most part. So you got to get moving. You have to spend part of your day moving every single day. It doesn't mean, the 10-minute workout, you go do your 10-minute crunches and, that's all you need to do and go eat your paleo diet. It just doesn't work that way. It's still calories still apply. And that's what me and Heath have been pounding, I'm sure. And I'm sure you deal with that too, telling people, hey, you still got to watch the calories.
And I would also add sleep into that.
Sleep, yeah.
Because that.
I know, it's almost midnight your time right now.
No,
that's crazy.
That's not a hint. But it's something I think that, just the way that we live now, it's overlooked a lot, but it's so important,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. If I have a 2.5-year-old, and thank God for melatonin, because I don't know what I would do without it. It's like, it's so crucial, because if I don't get a good night's sleep and then you go to try to run, it's just not there. And that's really important. You talked a little bit about writing a paper on the microbiome, and gut health. I've been seeing a ton of research in regards to aspartame and sucralose and how it affects your gut, and it's actually triggering weight gain because it changes how your stomach works. Are you going to be speaking to that point a little bit? Because I'm sure that's a real problem over there.
Definitely, I've already seen the studies on that. I'm planning to put that in, and basically some of those microbes in the gut, once they get the trigger for sweetness, there's a message that goes back to the brain. The brain is expecting something sweet. It's not getting it. So then you're craving for carbs or sugar or whatever. It remains, and then you have a tendency to eat more after that. So it's the gut brain axis is completely fascinating, there's another study which I saw recently about just the diversity of our microbiome and how that compares to the diversity of a traditional hunter-gatherer culture. So they did a comparison with the Hadza people living in traditional hunter-gatherer culture living in Tanzania, and they saw and they compared that the diversity of the microbiome to like urban people living somewhere in Italy, and was much more diverse of course in the Hadza population. So many interesting things, like what destroys the gut biomes, the diet, the cesarean birth, that's a big one, the breastfeeding, or lack of breastfeeding, and antibiotic exposure, and the list goes on. So.
Yeah, that's one interesting thing. I've been seeing, Quest nutrition bars plastered all over Kuwait and stuff, and the number, they have sucralose in them. And what's interesting after consuming a Quest bar is you actually are still hungry and you start craving stuff you shouldn't be eating, and it's got to be the sucralose in there. I mean, it's really sad that they're choosing to put sucralose in there. I'm glad that they have a natural line, but I think it's important that people know that sucralose is in their bars, and I'm sure they're exploding over in Dubai, especially. But there's so many products they stick sucralose in, so it's really sad. And they sneak it in there, and then companies will be like, oh, we only put a little, but if you actually think about it, you only need a little bit of sucralose because it's like 300 times stronger than sugar. So, but and it's amazing what that it does, and hopefully more food manufacturers start focusing on using stevia and mixing it with a little bit of natural sweetener. So, but we really wanted to thank you for coming on. I know it's really late over there. We want to encourage everybody to go to ChristopherJamesClark.com. He's got a great site. Check out his book, Nutritional Grail. It looks like you have all sorts of amazing recipes on there. I mean, is there any other sites or links or anything else you want to promote?
I would love to promote anyone, especially in the UK. Next weekend on the 25th, there's going to be Health Unplugged. It's an event. I'm going to actually be going there. I'm going to be presenting there. But it's like Rob Wolf is going to be there via satellite, Terry Walls via satellite, and it's organized by Daryl Edwards, who's a great fitness movement kind of expert. So I would love to promote that. Anyone in the UK, and all the rest of the great websites. That's all I have to say.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on. We want to encourage everybody to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all of our most recent videos. You can email questions to Gary@theprimalshow.com and myself, Heath@theprimalshow.com. We will answer your questions live on air. And thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon, Chris. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Chris.